my name's Nick. I'm a speech therapist. I'm a person who stutters, and one of the contributors to our Open Stutter YouTube channel, which we'll talk a little bit more about in a few minutes. I also love all things outdoors, playing in the mountains, playing in the ocean. Yeah, I'm gonna let our other presenters or guests introduce themselves and say hi.
I'm Ben Goldstein. I'm also a speech therapist and a person who stutters. And I'm one of the hosts of the YouTube channel Open Stutter as well. Nick and I are super excited to share a little bit about the channel and introduce it to everyone here and help get out the word about this project that we're really excited about. I'll kick it over to Jenny and Jay, who are two people who have appeared on the channel before and are here to help us introduce it and to share a little bit about their journeys with stuttering as well.
Okay, hi, I am Jenny McGuire. I am also a person who stutters. I used to be an art therapist, and I'm a wife and a mother. I stayed home for the first years of my kids' lives, and I'm just getting back out there in a professional role. And my number one passion has become, outside of my family, being an advocate for people who stutter. So I was really thrilled to do an interview on Open Stutter because I just love the concept of trying to democratize good information and let people from all over the world just log on and learn healthy, proactive ways that they can improve their quality of life. I was in a presentation earlier. I've just joined SSA, the Stuttering Scholarship Association, and I love that mission. We're trying to get access for kids and adults from underserved communities to good speech therapy. And I've been on the board of SAY for like 12 years now, and I love that organization. So that's me in the stuttering community.
And I'm Jay Dedman. I'm really glad to be here. Exciting that there's so many people. So I'm also a person that stutters. I am 47 years old. I only say that because it's only been 2 years now since I've allowed myself to openly stutter. You know, up until that time, my whole life, I lived covertly, at least I tried to, and I did everything I could to let nobody see how I spoke. And I'm sure many of you out there experience the same thing, just the emotional toll it took on me to keep that illusion up was just way too much for me. I mean, it affected my life in so many ways, all my relationships, my mental stability, all those things. So when I found Vivian Siskin in the arts program, you know, I walked into a room of people who were openly stuttering with each other, and where the message was, it's okay to stutter. I mean, that was amazing to me. I'd never seen anything like that before. And that's really opened up my world now. I had been in therapy before, and it was all about teaching me how to not stutter, basically teaching me tricks, which, I could come up with tricks on my own. This was, I can stutter. What I'd work on is my struggle. So I don't have to struggle as much. And that's a really big thing. And so I'm excited to be a part of the Open Stutter video project, because I think it's important to share that information and to share those stories, because I'll tell you, as maybe a little older than some people here, if you think of the 90s or the 80s, the 90s, and even the early 2000s, there was just, for me at least, there was really, growing up in Texas, I didn't know where to go to find any information like this. So I'm excited to be a part of it.
I just want to add that Jay and his partner are the technical people behind the channel. So he's giving back a lot of his time toward this effort and skill.
Yes. So before we dive in and hear a little bit more about Jay and Jenny's stories, I wanted to briefly introduce the channel. So we created Open Stutter to get good information about stuttering out in the world. We, all of us at a certain point, have been in that place of trying to find help with our stuttering, feeling alone about our stuttering, and just needing support and good information. So we came up with the idea for this channel to get out real, authentic stories of people who stutter, and to allow people who stutter around the world to be able to connect with each other and not feel so alone. And we have gotten really great response so far from people who have stumbled across the channel and seen a video of someone who is sharing openly about their journey and how they've managed to navigate the world as a person who stutters. And so we really just want to highlight and lift up the voices of people who stutter, because we think that everybody has a story to share, and that our stories are really powerful. So having said that, you want to kick us off?
Of course. Thanks, Ben. And I would just add in also that I think something else we've been thinking about with the Open Stutter YouTube channel is getting, as Ben was saying, getting information out there and highlighting the lived experience of being a person who stutters, both when those moments are hard, right? I think we can all relate at times to the experience of stuttering not always being an easy experience. But also highlighting people who stutter, and when they talk, we hear them stuttering, but they're successful doctors, they're successful lawyers, that they work in the stuttering, and with stuttering as being a compatible thing in their life while also pursuing their dreams and their careers. So right on this YouTube channel, we interview and talk to people who stutter, and so when hearing about StutterFest and talking with Tom about how we might present or talk about the YouTube channel, Tom had the idea, well, like, why don't you just have a conversation like you do on your YouTube channel with two people who stutter, Jay and Jenny, and kind of live interview, have a live talk, and then and talk about some of the themes that we do in on the channel. So that's what we're going to do right now, and then Ben and I are going to make sure we have time at the end for you all to ask our stars, Jay and Jenny, any questions you might have for them, because I think that can also be really valuable. So, first question, let's get started. So, the name of our channel is Open Stutter. So I kind of want to start us off by grounding us, Jay and Jenny. If you can help us understand, like, what is this concept and idea we're talking about when we say Open Stutter? What does that look like in your life right now? And feel free to also tell us a little bit more about your story related to that if you want.
I'll start. Yeah, Open Stutter to me means when I'm talking to somebody, I know when I'm going to stutter. I mean, it's not a surprise to me. Oftentimes I can see it coming from a million miles away. And normally in my life, what I've done is I dig into my toolbox of tricks, and I think, what trick am I going to use at this moment? Whether it be word substitution, some weird pause. I mean, just a myriad of things that makes my speech very inefficient, And so what Open Stutter means to me is I look at that person and I go right for the word and I openly, I just cut to the chase and I stutter and I do the thing that I told myself was the worst thing I could ever do in the world, and that is to stutter. And by doing that, I shame bust and I take away all that fear that I used to have. That's not saying I like my stutter all the time. It's not saying I don't still feel the shame, but I now know that it's okay to do it. And by doing that, I take away a lot of the struggle I used to have. Because what would happen is my stutters would get very ugly because I'm stuttering, I'm trying to pull back it's just, I get stuck in that thing and, my stutter could go on for like half a minute. Now I do a little stumble, but then I just move on and I stay in the conversation and it's cool, what it's all about is the joy of communication. You know, that's really what it's all about. And that's why I love to watch these stories when people talk about open stuttering, is because they're always, I mean, people forget, like those of us that stutter, we love to talk. I mean, or at least I do. I love to talk to people, you know, I love telling stories, you know, I love being involved, and I just needed to take away that.
I was going to say, Jay is so fun to listen to. I'm in arts group therapy with him, and I'm just so glad you talk, because I think you're just the most insightful person. Yeah, I mean, he covered a lot very aptly. I would just add so like Jay, I had a covert profile, or at least attempted covert profile for a long time, which means you're either covert, or then you have the show-stopping blocks where you have approach avoidance, because you're like, oh wait, but I'm not supposed to be a person who stutters. This person doesn't know what's happening. So now I'm going to hold back and have a block for like 30 seconds to 3 minutes, you know? And so what open stutter has meant to me is a long time, like a 20-year period almost of working on this, but of role unification. I don't know what the word, but to have one role that I take. I'm Jenny. I'm a person who stutters. I'm not, when I walk into this situation, going to plan to pass as fluent. And to really take on that role and have a role be integrated in you and just be one person in all settings. Yeah, it requires a lot of doing the thing you fear the most, which is speaking in situations you don't want to and not avoiding stuttering. And so reducing the shame that I had internalized from a very early age and doing the hard practice of going places and stuttering has allowed me to not have that role conflict anymore, where it's like, which Jenny, oh, okay, I'm with my husband, like I'll stutter. Oh, now I'm in this place, I'll try not to. All that nonsense that just eats away at quality of life. And frankly, I think at physical health because of anxiety. And I am just so grateful to have made this journey, but it's been hard. And community is very, very, very important, I think, when trying to make deep changes like this.
Yeah, oh my goodness. I feel like you both shared so much that there's so much to talk about. Like Jay and Jenny, you were both talking about how it's been a struggle, right, to stutter in a way where we're just kind of letting it happen. And I think about, you know, how, you know, stuttering is a stigmatized identity. So it makes sense that it's something that is hard for us to go out in the world and be like, okay, we're going to talk and we're going to stutter. And if we're stuttering while we're talking, that's okay, you know, and yeah. So, like, where are you both now in your journey of working to be more okay with who you are as a person who stutters?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say Jenny really brings up a good point. I could not do this alone. You know, I could not learn to stutter openly by myself, you know, because look, I've told myself my whole life, like, I'm a piece of shit because I stutter, you know? I mean, that's just the truth. And that's a very powerful message that I had to, like, deprogram out, and I needed to hear it from other people. I needed to see other people stutter openly and be cool with it. I didn't know what that looked like, you know? I had never really been around anyone else that stuttered. I think in my life I had met maybe a couple people that I think stuttered, and as soon as I thought that they stuttered, I got away from them as fast as I could. They reminded me of what I didn't want to be, you know? So I needed to be around people who were cool with stuttering and they could show me what it looked like. And then it took a while, you know? I mean, I'm still on this road. I'm still on this journey. You know, I still have those negative thoughts that come into my mind when I start to stutter, if I'm on the phone talking to the credit card company and they're asking me things I should know, and I'm stuttering on them, and they think I'm dumb, or at least I think they think they're dumb. You know, it's just all those mental gymnastics that I need just to get rid of. And you know what? I just need to talk. And if I stutter, it's fine, but I just need to move forward.
Yeah, and I'm still on a journey, as we all are. I mean, it's life. I hope I'm always on my journey. But I am so far from where, I mean, when I first met Vivian, I pretty much thought I could take her ideas, you know, it sounded really unpleasant. I was talking to a friend who I met in group a long time ago this week, who's in this chat right now. And he reflected with some colorful language what he thought about her when she presented her ideas to him. But I think for those of us, which most people throughout childhood had been exposed to more therapies like fluency shaping stuff, and we've tried all the things that sound quick and good, it resonates with that deep part, like, oh, I have to talk my way out of this. I have to be seen. Oh, and it doesn't sound fun, but it resonated like, yeah, this is probably what I have to do. But I definitely thought at the beginning I could just come to group and be really chatty and fluent and maybe watch other people stutter and maybe go practice a little bit in my own life and then move on. I mean, that's truly how I think I approached group for maybe the first year. But I mean, I did the work. Again, the group was so instrumental to be able to come back to people who really understand, not just like other people in your life who want to support you, but cannot understand how hard these seemingly simple assignments you give yourself are. Like, order what you want at the restaurant without pausing before the entree because you know you're going to stutter. Stuff like that is really hard at a certain point. And to be able to go report and celebrate with people who get it has been huge. And after I had done the work for a long time, I moved to a new state. So I arrived in Colorado, and I'm just so grateful that I had done all this work and I could just build my Colorado life with this one identity, because it was annoying in my previous world to have to sort of come out and have all these conversations with people in my life back in Maryland, which I did, and they're all still in my life, and that's great. But it's way easier just to be who you are and move forward that way. So, yeah, I've come a long way.
I mean, Ben, I remember coming to group. You know, I'd never really been in a group of people that stuttered before. And I remember you were talking to me, and you were looking me right in the eye, and you were stuttering. And you didn't look away. You weren't like scrunching your eyes. I mean, all the things that I would do, look down, all that stuff. And I was just thinking, what is this guy doing? You know?
It's crazy. Yeah. Well, you know, I think I'm curious for both of you. You both have made an incredible amount of change through your journeys, and I'm curious what change has been the most meaningful to you.
Well, so, you know, I tell the story that, you know, I'm married. I've been with this woman now for, she'll be mad at me, she's almost 16 years, something like that. Up until a couple of years ago, we didn't talk about my stutter. It was something she didn't ask me, I didn't want to talk about. It was just one of those things. I used all my tricks with her. It's weird, right? And one of the biggest changes is that after I brought her to group, after a while, after I felt comfortable enough for her to be there, she could see everyone stuttering and she could see me stutter. And then it gave me kind of permission to start stuttering openly in front of her, and then to let her ask me questions and to be able to talk about it. And, you know, and you think about it, that's so weird that this is the person I love, like the person closest to me. And it was a secret, my secret, that I was going to take to my grave, you know? It's crazy.
Mine is similar in that it's about connections. I mean, I really, really, really value deep relationships and shared vulnerability. And this was always an area where I would hold back and be like, oh, yeah, I can be vulnerable in other areas and expect my friends to tell me their deepest shames, but this is off the table. And to just, again, integrate into I'm Jenny. My friends can know how hard this has been for me. They can know it still bothers me sometimes. And just there's not a veil in relationships where I'm not being completely authentic. I value that the most by far.
Yeah, and you have the freedom then to be yourself, or you're free from carrying that around as well.
Right, because I mean, really, what this is all about is just to get on with life, you know. I mean, like, you get to live. Like, I don't want stuttering to be like the central, which it was for a long time, like the central thing that I had to get through before I could start to live. You know, yeah.
It was funny. My one of my daughters is about to get braces for the second time, and it's bumming her out because she's had them before and she knows how annoying it's going to be. And it was really sort of, she was carrying it around as a stress day to day. And my husband was wanting to brainstorm with me about how to try to not have her be so focused and carrying the stress around all the time. And I don't want her to either, but I was like, I don't know. I thought all day, every day of the first 20 years of my life about this huge stress I had. And I would lay in bed and think through, like, which class am I going to have to talk in? Which I was like, so kids carry around stress. And he kind of just looked at me. He was like, yeah, well, if we could help her not live like that, that would be good. I was like, that's a good point.
Yeah, no, it's really crazy thinking about, for me too. I just remember as a kid, like, just thinking about it all day, every day. It was like the whole day was centered around showing as little or no stuttering as possible. And just the amount of space that would take up in my head. It was just all encompassing. And I think that for me, that's why this project is so personal too, because when I think of open stuttering, sure, I think of the physically stuttering openly, but it's also, Jenny, a lot of what you're talking about, of just being able to be yourself.
Yeah.
I stutter. I'm a person who stuttered. I'm a person who stutters at work. I'm a person who stutters at home. I'm a person who stutters when I meet a new person. I'm a person who stutters at the grocery store. It's just a part of who I am. How did you guys get to that place of, having that role congruency where you have some level of acceptance that this is just a part of who you are?
It's showing up when you really don't want to, and practicing and desensitizing. And for some people, depending on a lot of things, from personality factors to how deep your shame is, the journey has no prescribed timeline. So I've made big leaps, and then I've taken breaks and moved across the country and then gone back to it. It's been, I've seen people I really admire who have come through avoidance reduction therapy group, and they hear what they need to do, and they're like, oh. And I'm not saying it's not hard for them, but they seem to be able to take those steps immediately and quickly, and then they're out. And all of us are different, and that's okay, but it's doing the hard thing. And if that takes you a while, then it's accepting that the journey is going to take a while. And again, I'll just come back to support. The having a group of people who are working on the same things and have the same values and are walking the same path is immensely helpful.
I mean, I think that even what we're doing here today is a big deal. The fact that we're all coming together and supporting each other, and we see each other, and maybe people are hearing some things they had never heard before from people who stutter. I think that that's just really important. I still fall into the trap sometimes of, I shouldn't be stuttering out in the world, but I need to remind myself. And that's why, again, like Ginny says, it's just so important for me to be connected to a group of people that stutter. I need to remember that this is just who I am. This isn't something I can cure. It's not something I necessarily need to cure. It's something I need to learn to live with and to be okay with it. Like that isn't gonna kill me. I thought it would for a long time. I thought if people saw that, they would run away from me. All those crazy things that I used to tell myself, like that's just a weird part of my speech, but I got a lot of good ideas, and as long as I'm forward moving with my ideas and staying in the conversation, it's okay. It just gets weird. All the things I would do to cover that up. I would look away, I would scrunch my eyes. I'd start to use all those weird words trying to get around it, where then my speech really didn't make sense. And then it really did sound like I'm kind of dumb because I'm using all these weird words incorrectly, just stutter. And
yeah, I hated
get on with it.
I hated that the most when I was trying to hide how I knew I would come off as confounding or confused or not sharp or all those things when you're just like running through your avoidance list because each one's not working, but you're like, that's cool. I've got a Rolodex of like 1,000. I'll just keep going. But it creates such an awkward interpersonal situation. And I hated that. And I hated that I would continually choose that over stuttering.
Right.
Because that alone was just crazy. But I did.
Right. And it's taken such a big weight off of my shoulders and off of my mind that I don't have to worry what the other person's thinking. I still struggle with that, but that's a big thing. I used to always think, what is this person thinking? What is this person thinking? And you know what? Who cares? What the other person thinking is none of my business. I'm just saying what I need to say, and we just move on.
So Jay, what, and Jenny, when you're out in the world and you are open stuttering and it's out there and it's raw, what kind of reactions do you get from people, and how do you cope with those reactions?
Before you guys answer, I'm just going to interrupt you for 1 second in that somebody has their hand raised. I think Kunal has a question. So you don't have to get to it just yet, but I know sometimes when you're talking, it's hard to monitor what's going on. But so just so you know, it's there.
Yes. Thank you. This is going to be our last question, and then we're going to open it up for questions for everybody.
We get the same reactions everyone here gets. I mean, the awkward laugh, which is usually, I've learned over time, they're not actually laughing, but they're kind of just doing that awkward, like, what's going on here? She's just trying to order a coffee. I find myself anticipating that, and then it adds to mental, I'm like, I should just, who cares? So I'm still working on sort of the meta levels of interaction and trying to not even prepare myself like, yeah, this person's probably going to do something that then makes me feel awkward because I'm making them feel awkward. It's like, okay, I don't need to spend any more time thinking about that. But I mean, I think I'm sure I get all the same reactions that all people who stutter do.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, in my whole life, I don't think I've really had very many, like, those hostile negative reactions that my mind would tell me were going to happen. I just get a lot of confusion, like, what's happening here? Like, he was talking okay, and now there's a problem, and is there, is he having a stroke? I don't know, that kind of thing. And it's just, uh, it, again, I'm still working on it, but the less I struggle, the better it is. And so I'm trying to get rid of my struggle. The stutter really just kind of weird stumblings that a lot of people have.
Okay, well, we have we have 8 minutes left. So Kanal, I see, yeah, you've had your hand raised for a long time. Feel free to unmute and go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, no, thanks so much for that. I mean, one question I had is, I mean, like as you think about the barometer of success, like do you think this idea of like full acceptance is like is it is an actual kind of real like goal? Because like and the reason why I ask, because as I think about just the idea of the fear of judgment, right? It's like, is that not a natural phenomenon for anyone to have? And so, therefore, maybe I feel like I'm accepted, but when I have certain situations, I might get caught up in those stories again because because I go back to that fear of judgment that like that might be like inherently within our like human nature. So yeah, just love to kind of get your guys' thoughts on that.
I think some of us tend to think, and I mean all people, not people who stutter, tend to think more about what people might be thinking about us. I know each of my parents, they're very different individuals from each other, but they both just like, I can tell they do not walk through the world wondering. And I can tell by some of the ways, like I'll be with them and I'm thinking, Mom, like, why are you treating this person this way? Like, aren't you? There are some people who walk through the world and just don't think or focus a lot about what people are thinking about them. And in terms of accepting my stuttering, I just want to, my goal is to be at the point where whatever my baseline way of interacting with the world is, my stuttering's not an outlier. So yeah, like I might still be more sensitive than my parents and like scanning the room, but I don't want, I mean, stuttering used to be an outlier off the charts compared to everything else. And I assumed that everything that went badly was because of that. And I just want to normalize it within my baseline. And I'm pretty close. And I will say acceptance, paradoxically, has been much easier with the slight changes I've made, i.e. reducing struggling. So it would have been a tough pill to swallow. I could not have seen myself accepting how struggled I was before, but that doesn't mean I wasn't accepting my stutter. I had to peel away all these behaviors I'd built that made my stutter so much harder for me to deal with so that I could accept what it actually is, which is kind of a nothing burger at the end of the day. Jay.
I think that's a good way to put it, is just, it's important for me to put stuttering in the right context, It's not like the worst thing in the world that's ever happened to me. That's the way I lived for many years, like this thing that is just haunting me. It's just, it's a little bit of a pain in the butt, sometimes I don't want to think about it. Sometimes I get tired, but it's just like this thing right here. And I deal with it. I have other things in my life that kind of bug my life, but that's it. And then again, I can then just live and just have relationships with people and not let it be the wall that I live behind, that I have to try and peek over to talk to people.
And I would just add, I think that was a great question. I think, right, it is natural for, I think, people to fear being judged by others. And I think for people who stutter, maybe they're more vulnerable because of their experiences with stuttering to fear that judgment. But do I think that, but I don't think that has to stop us from speaking and talking and going out and desensitizing to that fear and being a person who stutters and stuttering, even though we think someone might think badly of us or someone might judge us, stuttering regardless of what others think.
Yeah, I just want to add too, I think that there's a lot of power in allowing people to judge us. To say, all right, I'm going to the store, I'm ordering my food, and I'm going to let the person taking my order think that I'm an idiot, or that I can't talk, or that there's something weird going on. Because at the end of the day, I'm still me. I still stutter. I still have all the other qualities that make up who I am. And so it's easier said than done, but on some level, whether that cashier thinks, man, that is a brave guy who's going up and ordering his food and stuttering and making sure he gets what he wants. Or if the person's thinking, that person's weird, like what is going on with his speech? I can't really control what they're going to be thinking either way. And because I can't control it, at the end of the day, it doesn't change who I am either way. So that's not to say that I don't fear judgment. I do. I think, Kana, you make a really good point. That's just like a human thing that we all have. But I think personally, I've sort of reduced how much I care about that judgment in relation to stuttering by kind of going out there sometimes and saying, all right, what's the worst thing that you can think about me? Have at it. I can't stop you from thinking or nothing.
Any final thoughts before we say goodbye here?
Yeah, my final thing is just anyone here who is, if this is a new concept to you, like it was to me, I just want you to know that it's okay to stutter. I had never heard that before. So if that's the one takeaway, is just know that it's okay to stutter.
I think that's a great ending point. If you're interested in seeing more stories of other people who stutter and what open stuttering looks like in their lives, check out our YouTube channel and use those videos in any way that's helpful to you, your friends, or anyone you know. We're hoping to get the information out there.
And that can be found at openstutter.com.